Most of us will eventually experience some kind of misfortune or setback in our life. It has been a year since we saw our first U.S. death from COVID-19 virus. Some of you may have already had it and recovered. Perhaps you have loved ones or friends who have the virus now or have died. I have some family who have had it, and my best friend has it now. And like Job, we may ask questions like these. What have we done to deserve this? Why must we suffer? During this year, today, and into the near future, we all have and continue to experience a pandemic and its consequences. Not the first pandemic that the world or the United States have had in the past, but one present with us now. Some of you, or those you know, may have lost their employment. Either you or your spouse may have been or are presently infected with the virus. Or an elderly parent or a friend is sick or has died. We continue to be affected by lockdowns, the relative freedom of staying apart from one another, unable to be physically present to loved ones who are either in the hospital or live in assisted living or in rest homes. And children, especially young children, separated from their classmates and their teachers, and they desire to go back to school. What have we done to deserve this? Why must we suffer? We only hear from the book of Job on 2 different occasions in these 3 years of readings on Sundays. Tonight is one of those. Perhaps we may also have some feelings like Job. It had been a long time since I read the entire book of Job, so I did so this week before coming here, just to see all that Job had gone through. He was a man exceedingly blessed with tremendous amounts of material wealth. 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 50 yoke of oxen, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 she-asses, a great number of work animals, hirelings and workers, many of them, a wife, 7 sons and 3 daughters. And during this time of prosperity, they were able to feast together on many occasions. Job was a man who was blameless, upright, and feared God. But Satan asked God to allow him to tempt him. And Satan prophesied that in a while he'll deny you, God. So fate and misfortune began to come to Job. Great numbers of his animals were stolen. In one instance, lightning strikes the herd and kills a whole herd. And we who have farm animals in the past know that when storms come, often cattle or sheep or others will gather together next to each other in a corner next to a fence. One time we lost a number of cattle by lightning, just like Job lost a whole herd that way. Something like a tornado strikes one of his homes, and kill some of his family who were feasting in the home. And his physical body, flesh and bone, is infected from the soles of his feet to the top of his head with severe boils. His friends begin to wonder what he has done wrong to bring all this misfortune, and they treat him badly. Job's experiences were miserable. He speaks of miserable drudgery, unchanging days, restless nights, and desolation, feeling alone, at a loss at why, being innocent of sin, serious sin, all this is happening. And so he feels without hope, that his days are short. He even begs God to let him die. Simply says he would never experience happiness again. But in all of this, he remained faithful and obedient to God. Job had believed in a theology of reward and punishment. So while Job presents his case to God, God simply listened to him. But finally, after some time, he encountered the living God in a special way and changed his way of thinking. He was moved from being a strict law and order orientation to being open-ended in his relationship with God. Job experienced God's gratuitous love, and it made all the difference, as it would for us. He realized that everything he ever had was a gift, and no one can earn blessing, not even claim the right to exist. What about us in these days during this pandemic? Do we have an open-ended, loving relationship with our God? Can we freely and openly talk to him directly and tell him how it is for us? Have you ever encountered God's gratuitous love for you? In the end, because of the faithfulness of Job, God restored Job's fortunes with twice as much as he had before. Job's simple message to you and me is endure your sufferings while remaining faithful and obedient to God. And our Lord Jesus Christ himself, during his life, experienced persecution, people that did not like him. Many ways he suffered, even sometimes feeling bad that the disciples close to him still lacked a lot of understanding. Jesus Christ is the model of all caregivers. Today we also thank God for all who care for those who are suffering from COVID-19 and other disease, or who have suffered from the death of someone whom they love dearly, or in their care for others have also contracted the virus themselves. We need to honor, appreciate, and thank the many people who have been healers in our midst. Today's gospel highlights Jesus' interest and ability to heal and the importance of care for the sick and the vulnerable. We recall previously that in the synagogue, Jesus healed a man there who had an unclean spirit, had a real problem. And Jesus healed him simply by his word. Come out of him. And he was healed. Today's gospel, we see Jesus on that same day that he healed in the synagogue, going into the home of Simon and Andrew, and they're healing the mother-in-law, Simon. Jesus knew that in healing people, often touch and being present is very, very important. Jesus simply grasped her by the hand, raised her up, and healed her. That evening after sundown, the beginning of the first day of the week, no longer the Sabbath, everybody in town came to the door seeking healing, and he healed many. But touch and spending time with those who are ill or suffering is vitally important. Many years ago, as an associate pastor at St. James, Oklahoma City, I taught the 8th grade religion class. And in that class was a girl named Kathy, who later happened to be the daughter of one of my hunting buddies. Kathy grew up and became a nurse. And administering to people in the hospital, she would spend quality time with them. And of course, whoever was the head nurse on the floor would tell her, "You can't spend that much time with people, Kathy. Stop it." There was one patient who lashed out and was unruly, a woman up in age. None of the nurses liked going in and spending time because she would talk roughly to them. Kathy realized this woman really was lonely and with no one. So she began to come after her hours, and visit the woman, simply to sit down and to talk, to allow the woman to talk. The woman settled down. Kathy prayed with her. And the other nurses finally had asked one day, "What made that woman change? She doesn't treat us badly now either." Kathy said, "You just need to know her suffering and what caused it." While visiting Ponca City Hospital, St. Joseph Hospital one day, I was visiting our Catholic patients, and there was a room with 3 people in it. Only one was a member of our parish. But I went in and visited that day, and when I came back the next day, I noticed the woman in the first bed who was not Catholic. And finally I asked her, "That tray is in front of you yesterday and today, and you have not eaten a thing." "I can't. I can't reach it, and I can't feed myself." I said, "If you don't mind, I will feed you." And after feeding her, I went to one of our sisters in charge of the hospital and told her what was happening in that room. From then on, they stayed to feed her. Little things, important things, things we can all do. The message of Jesus Christ to us is, nothing is impossible for those who truly love and trust God. Over and over again during his life, Jesus says to those he heals, "By your faith, you have been healed." And remember how Jesus restores himself? The same way we need to, by deep prayer with God. After all the healing that day, the next morning he goes away quietly to pray. And especially even in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he takes 3 special apostles with him deeper into the garden, and they can't stay awake. He's in deep prayer and agony. When we find ourselves perhaps feeling like Job, how will Jesus find us? Awake, I hope, responsive to our own suffering with prayer, and or in prayer for the suffering of another or others. Let us always remember that no matter what misfortune may come our way or sickness, that Jesus will guide us through any storm that we may experience in our lives. Lean on him. Keep trusting God, and continue to respond with faith and obedience.